Welcome back to Vice Grip Garage, where Rust meets resurrection and forgotten machines roar back to life. But this isn't just another episode about draining fuel tanks or hauling derelict classics out of the mountains. This is the story behind it all, the story of Derek Bieri. Before YouTube fame, before the millions of views, Derek was just a small-town farm kid turning wrenches in North Dakota out of pure necessity. There wasn't anyone else to do it, so he learned to fix what was broken. His father and grandfather instilled a simple, unwavering principle in him: if it's broken, you fix it. No excuses. That lesson carried him through years of trial, failure, and hard-earned victories. But Derek's path to success wasn't a straight shot. There was a time when he traded the grit of the garage for polished shoes and boardrooms. He climbed the corporate ladder, chasing what many would call the American dream. Still, something was missing. The spark never died, it was just buried beneath spreadsheets and deadlines. Eventually, he made a bold move: leave behind the security of a steady paycheck and pursue something real. Vice Grip Garage wasn't born in a $1 million shop. It started in a cold, cluttered garage with little more than instinct, skill, and raw determination. The mission was simple: rescue forgotten machines, get them running again, and do it all with brutal authenticity. No fancy tools. No overproduced drama. Just honest wrenching. And people loved it. Derek's no-nonsense attitude and working-class charisma struck a nerve. Viewers didn't just tune in for the cars, they tuned in for him. But success, as always, comes with a price. As the channel grew, so did the scrutiny. Some viewers began questioning his choices. Critics murmured about authenticity. The dream started to feel more like a spotlight, blinding and relentless. Even after relocating to Tennessee and scaling up the projects and sponsorships, questions lingered: was Derek still the same guy? The humble underdog who turned scrap metal into miracles, or had the brand overtaken the man? Because the truth is, success doesn't just elevate, it complicates. More views meant more pressure. More sponsors meant higher expectations. And more eyes meant more judgment, even into his personal life. The story of Vice Grip Garage was no longer just about cars. It became something deeper, a story about staying grounded when the world is watching, and about holding on to who you are when everything around you starts to change. Vice Grip Garage became more than just a place to fix old cars. It grew into something deeper, something that touched on integrity, identity, and resilience. In a digital world that can build you up one day and tear you down the next, Derek Bieri kept going. He didn't quit. He kept wrenching. Kept filming. Kept pushing forward. Because at its core, this wasn't just a hobby or a trend. It was a mission. A mission to prove that passion beats perfection, that heart matters more than hype, and that even in an era of filters and fame, one man with a wrench, a camera, and a dream could still make something real. By the end of 2021, something inside Derek shifted. Years of commuting, long winters, and wasted hours had begun to erode the life he truly wanted. He was losing over 30 days a year, an entire month of his life, just sitting in traffic, inching along highways, watching taillights while time slipped away. Every mile spent on the road was a mile taken from his family, from the garage, from the one place where he felt most alive. And then there were the winters. Brutal. Unforgiving. Relentless. Half the year, his Minnesota garage was more icebox than workshop, tools buried under frost, projects stalled in silence. He wasn't building anymore. He was just surviving. One day, he'd had enough. No more, he told himself. Tennessee offered something different. Not just warmer weather or lower costs, though those mattered too, but a chance to reset. A place where the garage floor wasn't frozen over, and where every hour of daylight could be spent turning bolts, not turning a steering wheel. So he packed up his life, left the snow and gridlock behind, and moved south with his family. It wasn't an easy decision. Leaving behind routine, roots, and familiarity never is. But it was necessary. And in that leap of faith, Derek found what he'd been missing: space to breathe, time to create, and a renewed sense of freedom. Everything changed. His workshop was now just steps from home. Efficiency soared. The energy he used to burn on logistics could now be poured into projects. No more frozen fingers. No more lost days. Just uninterrupted, focused work. While most people were winding down from their 9-to-5s, Derek was just getting started, cranking away late into the night, covered in grease, surrounded by old steel and second chances. In that garage, he didn't just bring cars back to life. He brought himself back too. Derek was putting in over 100 hours a week, pouring himself into every nut, bolt, and broken down frame. Some called it obsessive, others outright insane. But to Derek, this wasn't work. This was living. Because when you love what you do, there's no such thing as quitting time. There's only the next challenge, the next fix, the next rescue waiting in the shadows of rust and dust. Then something unexpected happened. Amid the grease and grind, a new passion ignited: racing. What started as a casual interest, just a fun detour from the regular build videos, soon became something much more. It was a thrill, a test, a rush. At first, it was just curiosity, a way to push machines, and himself, beyond the shop. But in 2021, Derek didn't just test the waters. He dove in head first. His first official race was at the Midwest Drags, and true to form, he didn't roll up in a sleek race car. No, Derek entered the competition in a slammed ice cream truck. It was ridiculous. It was genius. It was pure Derek. He didn't show up to win, at least not yet. He came to learn, to try, to fail, and to fix. That first taste of roaring engines and burning rubber flipped a switch inside him. And once it was flipped, there was no going back. Next came Rocky Mountain Race Week, one of the toughest drag and drive events in the country. This time, he brought El Toro, a wild Mustang that wasn't built for show, but for war. This wasn't content for YouTube. This was real. Derek was chasing 8-second quarter-mile times, pushing his machine and his mind to the limit. The adrenaline. The noise. The camaraderie. It was addictive. But for Derek, it was never just about speed. It was about something deeper: heart. Real racing, especially drag and drive, is more than just horsepower and trophies. It's a test of endurance, adaptability, and sheer will. You don't just race. You fix. You rebuild. You problem solve with what you have, and then you race again the next day. It's community over competition. It's about showing up when everything breaks, when logic says walk away, and refusing to quit. That philosophy? It's the soul of Vice Grip Garage. That spirit runs through every car, every build, every story Derek tells. Take Independence, his 1972 Chevy Chevelle. It's not just a car, it's a symbol. It's dented, scraped, loud, and a little beat up. But it moves. It fights. It endures. Just like Derek. That Chevelle doesn't need chrome or shine. It just needs a road and a reason. Every time it tears down the track, it sends a clear message: determination beats dollars. And soul? Soul always outshines Polish. Through it all, Derek has kept one truth front and center: Vice Grip Garage was never about luxury or pretense. It was always about real people, real machines, and the stories worth telling in between. Vice Grip Garage was never about perfection. It was about proving that anyone with the right mindset, and the willingness to get their hands dirty, could bring something back to life. It was about problem solving, creativity, and refusing to throw things away just because they were broken. That's why people kept watching. Derek never faked a thing. He didn't stage drama or gloss over the hard parts. Instead, he showed the struggles, the breakdowns, the fights, the failures, and the small victories that made every moment worth it. What you saw on camera was real. And in a world flooded with filters and fakery, that kind of authenticity is rare. That genuine spirit didn't go unnoticed. Motor Trend saw something special in Derek's raw, honest approach, something magnetic. That's how Roadworthy Rescues was born. Bigger budget, tighter deadlines, but the same heart. In the very first episode, Derek took on a 1967 Mustang that had been left to rot for nearly 30 years. Most people would have sent it straight to the junkyard. Derek brought it back to life. Because to him, nothing is ever truly beyond saving, not if you're willing to try. That's the core of his mission: effort beats excuses, always. But as the audience grew, so did the scrutiny. More eyes meant more pressure, and with it, rumors. Some doubted whether Derek was still that down-to-earth guy with calloused hands and stubborn hope. Others accused him of being just another content creator chasing views. There were whispers of lawsuits, bad business deals, and questions about whether the channel had become too polished to stay real. Fame always casts shadows. Yet Derek never backed down. He didn't get defensive or distracted. Instead, he kept working, building, racing, creating. Because when the cameras stop rolling and the lights go down, there's still a man in a garage, wrenching, trying, doing what he loves. And that's what makes Vice Grip Garage more than a YouTube channel. It's a legacy in motion. It didn't start with fame or fortune. There were no sponsors, no production budgets, just a kid, a busted-up car, and a dream. Back then, the garage had a dirt floor. Tools were borrowed. Parts were whatever could be scavenged. Time was stolen between school, chores, and part-time jobs to cover the cost of the next bolt or gasket. But there was a fire, a burning curiosity. How does it work? Why won't it run? What happens if I just try? That hunger to figure things out never left. It only grew stronger. After a couple of decades, that same fire still drives Derek Bieri, the man behind Vice Grip Garage, one of the most authentic and rare voices in automotive YouTube. He's not a polished TV host working in a spotless shop plastered with corporate logos. Derek is the guy who walks out into a field, looks at a car that hasn't run in 40 years, cracks a joke, smiles, and then gets it roaring again. But this story isn't just about cars. It's about passion. It's about family. It's about refusing to give up when everything feels impossible. Behind every click of a ratchet and every puff of smoke from a first startup in decades lies a much bigger narrative, the story of a man chasing something real. It all started with a 1972 Chevy Chevelle named Independence. It wasn't shiny, it wasn't restored, and it wasn't even particularly clean. But it ran. Every scrape on its frame, every dent in its panels told the truth: this car had lived. Just like its owner, it wasn't there to look pretty. It was there to fight. That's the message Vice Grip Garage has carried from day one: you don't need the best to do your best. You don't need $1 million budget or a full crew. What you need is determination, creativity, and a stubborn refusal to quit. When Derek entered his first drag and drive event in 2021, he wasn't aiming for victory. He was there to learn. To throw himself into the fire and see what came out the other side. So what did he bring to the drag strip? Not a high-dollar race car, but a slammed ice cream truck. Because why not? It's not about what people expect, it's about what you can make work. From that moment on, he was hooked. The rush of the track, the roar of engines, the smell of burning rubber, it wasn't just exciting. It was addictive. But even more than the speed, it was about the people. The midnight parking lot repairs, the parts shared between strangers, the shared misery and shared joy, the community. That's not something you find in a showroom. You earn it on the asphalt. Derek kept coming back, bringing a little more of himself each time. Vice Grip Garage grew beyond just a YouTube channel, it became a movement. A place where gearheads of all kinds could see that making it work beats buying it new. That trying and failing is better than never turning the key at all. And that every machine deserves a second chance if someone cares enough to try. Derek's raw, unfiltered elbow grease approach soon caught the attention of a national audience. But it wasn't about changing who he was, it was about showing the world exactly the man he already was. The same guy who drags a forgotten 1967 Mustang out of a field after 30 years of silence and says, "Let's see if we can bring her back." And more often than not, he does. But don't get it twisted, none of this has been easy. The bigger the spotlight, the longer the shadows. People started speculating, whispering, and questioning. Some doubted that a guy like Derek could be real. So, they dug, stirred the pot, and manufactured drama where there was none, like the so-called lawsuit truck, a 1965 Chevy C10 that got tangled in rumor and confusion. There was no lawsuit, but the name stuck, and so did the noise. Then came the day someone stole a carburetor from Derek's farm. Not just any part, a piece with deep sentimental value, part of a build that meant something to his family. This wasn't about clicks or content. It was personal. It crossed a line. And the Bieri family doesn't take things like that lying down, because Vice Grip Garage is family, not just by blood but by shared values. Behind the scenes, Derek's wife Jessica is the unsung hero keeping everything moving. His kids, especially young Bentley, are already wrenching, learning, and doing. While other kids are buried in tablets, Bentley's out in the shop with sleeves rolled up, learning how to rebuild the past. It's not just a hobby, it's a way of life. Derek is passing down the lessons his father and grandfather taught him: hard work, patience, and a willingness to try matter. Doing something with your hands builds more than machines, it builds character. And that's what Vice Grip Garage is really about, reviving more than just cars. It's about reviving confidence, curiosity, and a sense of pride in fixing what others have long forgotten. What started on a dirt floor has grown into something much bigger: a classroom, a proving ground, a legacy. No million-dollar sponsors. No flashy ads. Just a guy, a toolbox, and a camera, trying to show the world that you don't need perfection, you need perseverance. That's the truth behind every Vice Grip Garage video. Every seized engine, every failed battery, every locked brake and rusted bolt, they're not just mechanical problems. They're metaphors. They're life. And Derek doesn't hide the struggle. He shows it. He embraces it. Because resurrection isn't. What Derek does isn't clean or polished. It's messy, sweaty, and real. When he finally fires up an engine that hasn't run in 40 years, when it coughs, chokes, and then roars to life, that moment isn't just a victory over rust. It's a triumph over doubt, fear, and the temptation to give up. Because at the end of the day, nothing is ever truly beyond saving, not a car, not a dream, not a person. Derek kept coming back, and with each return, he brought a little more of himself. Vice Grip Garage grew into more than just a YouTube channel. It became a movement, a place where gearheads of all kinds could see that making something work is better than buying it new. That trying and failing beats never turning the key. And that every machine deserves a second chance if someone just cares enough to try. That authenticity didn't go unnoticed. Even Motor Trend took notice, and that's how Roadworthy Rescues was born, a show that brought Derek's raw, elbow-grease approach to a national audience. But it wasn't about changing who he was. It was about showing the world exactly who he already was, the same guy dragging a forgotten 1967 Mustang out of a field after 30 years of silence, saying, "Let's see if we can bring her back." And more often than not, he does. But don't get it twisted, none of this has been easy. The bigger the spotlight, the longer the shadows. People started speculating, whispering, and questioning. Some doubted that a guy like Derek could be real. So they dug, stirred the pot, and created drama where there was none, like the so-called lawsuit truck, a 1965 Chevy C10 tangled in rumors and confusion. There was no lawsuit, but the name stuck, along with the noise. Then there was the day someone stole a carburetor from Derek's farm, not just any part, but one with deep sentimental value, part of a build that meant something to his family. This wasn't about clicks or content, it was personal. It crossed a line. And the Bieri family doesn't take things like that lying down, because Vice Grip Garage is family, not just by blood, but by values.